Everyone, welcome back to Seekers of the Eternal podcast with Chris Parks and Jason DeRocha. Chris, welcome back.
Yeah, cool. Good to be here and good to have people tuning in and listen to the podcast. We've been having a blast
Absolutely.
making these.
Absolutely. And this is an exciting podcast for me because you were at the Ananda Village retreat and, it's tough being away from you for a full week. I'm so used to chatting with you on a week-to-week basis. And I know you're still, we exchanged a couple of emails, but you were kind of off the grid and doing one of the most incredible things you possibly can do for your mind, body, and soul. So I'm very excited to hear about your retreat.
Yeah, it was a great trip and I'm happy to be back, like going to be in that space and then be able to, as much as possible, keep that vibration and share it with friends. And so it's nice to be back here and connecting with you again and sharing these things. It was
Cool.
Yeah, it was a really it was been a long time coming for me to get to Ananda. So for everyone, it's Ananda Village was began in 1969, I believe, is the date when Swami Kriyananda, one of my teachers who was a direct disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda, began Ananda. So I had been tuning in online for about a little over 3 years. And then with the pandemic coming in, I had planned to attend a retreat, that in 2020, and then the lockdowns happened. And then, oh yeah, within a year, of course, we'll all be back together and getting together and going to events again. And then in 2021, nope, still happening. So it's nice here in 2022 that I finally get to connect with all of these teachers that I've been learning from and taking Kriya initiation with. And so finally getting to see people in person, it was really great.
So how did you hear about like your first, introduction to Ananda Village? Where did that come from? How did you hear about it? And if you can maybe start there and then just kind of gradually, we'll ask some more questions, taking you right into the experience.
Yeah, it came through as my meditation practice became more and more sincere, and the experiences with meditation, also with plant medicines, working with psychedelics, working with different medicine men and women through ceremonies, and having these amazing transcendent experiences, tasting the fact that uh, all is one, all is bliss, that I am not this body, that I am infinite, eternal, ever expanding, ever new bliss. And having those experiences, not just like hearing it as words, but really feeling that. Um, I was having these really, really grand, amazing experiences in like with psychedelics and also with deep meditations after I really made my practice sincere. It was in 2019, I believe, where that was when I committed. It was like January 1st, make a New Year's resolution. Okay, I'm going to meditate every day for the rest of my life. How's that? Okay.
Wow, is that the resolution for the full life?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I was just ready to do that because I had just seen the gates of heaven enough times to know, like, this is what I should be aiming at.
Wow.
Why do anything else? And with that, I was having these experiences and I didn't want to turn into someone who was just going around telling everybody I was God, like a raving madman. Or, it was like, I didn't want to be just a lunatic. I wanted to have like a real path, like I would look at teachers like Ram Dass or these different people that had a lot of respect in their life, but they were super far out. And I wanted to be super far out, but I wanted to have like a real path, a real teacher, and a lighthouse. So when I was deep in these experiences, say with a medicine like Bufo, which is the highest potent psychedelic known to man, which is secreted from the Sonoran desert toad, and it's smoked compound. And when you inhale it, you just disappear. You don't know your name. I mean, this is at
Wow.
least for me
Is
and
it
people that I've
instant?
talked to. You inhale for 10 seconds, hold for, if you can, 10 seconds. And then by the time you're holding it, I don't know if I exhaled or what, but
Wow.
you're, it just completely, I don't know my name. I don't know, there's no ego. It's just transcendent bliss.
Wow.
Everything is just bliss. And experiencing that, it just, you come back from that experience and back into your mundane reality. And I wanted to really aim at, how can I make this last?
Okay. Okay. And can I follow? I just two quick questions about Bufo.
Yeah.
One is, does everybody have the same experience? So that's the first question.
And yeah, an interesting thing with Bufo is that if you watch people having the experience, it will be completely different. If
Mm,
say I'm waiting in line for my turn and I'm watching another person in front of me, the thing that I notice is, so you're inhaling this 10 seconds. If at any the experience becomes so big, so enormous, and in that moment you either say yes or no to it.
okay.
And I want to, with my meditation practice, I want to say yes. I want to submit myself to the will of the universe, because I trust the universe that has my back and really cares about me. If in that moment I don't trust the universe and I'm afraid, then something comes up, and that's okay. Everybody's at a different place with it,
Sure.
whether, and you never know, like it could happen to me too, where I say no because maybe some trauma is triggered, some past
Mm,
thing that I haven't worked out yet
right.
is triggered by some, maybe I hear a sound, somebody is maybe making a moaning noise, or I hear something that scares me in the moment, and I
Mm,
say, wait, no. So if you try to put on the brakes, your consciousness keeps
wow.
going into bliss, but
So you're almost fighting it.
your body fights it, and the
Okay.
body works out the trauma. You see
Yeah.
people flailing around. You have to have like a few people in case this happens, to protect you, to babysit your
Wow.
body
Wow.
while your consciousness is in heaven,
Okay.
in nirvana. So yeah, that's
Okay.
so
That's a pretty good distinction between the experiences. And I'm sure there's varying degrees along that continuum from resistance to acceptance.
right.
And then so the other question I had was, how does someone come to the, I mean, clearly this is something that's been passed down from years and years and years, but to look at a toad and be like, you know what, I want to I want to I don't want to smoke the toad, I want to smoke the secretions of the toad,
Yeah.
and figure that that's going to have some type of experience. How do we figure that out as humanity?
Yeah. The things are always so strange that in a lot of times they ask shamans in the rainforest, like, how did you come up with this, mixing these two plants to create ayahuasca?
Hmm.
There's 40 million species of different plants. Like, how did you find the two? You don't have a science lab. You're
Yes.
not trying all of them. And they would say, well, we talked to the plants. The plants told us which ones to combine. Bufo is a little bit different because there's no shamanic, as far as we know, there's no shamanic heritage around it. There's no like lineage, there's no
Huh.
ancestors talking about this. And as far as we know, it was only about 30 years ago where somebody actually secreted this, and it is poison. Like if you secrete it and you just ingest it, it's a poison. It's meant to protect the toad from
Right.
animals. But if you combust it, if you put it into a pipe, it actually transforms it into what's called 5-MeO DMT, which is the highest, it's the most potent psychedelic compound they've discovered yet, as far as I
Wow.
know. And so there's actually a great Vice documentary about it. I think it's Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia, has the
I'm gonna
first
watch
person
it.
who
Wow.
did that, and he just created this little zine pamphlet about it, and Hamilton ended up like hunting him down and interviewing him. So yeah, as
Wow.
far as we know, that was really only rediscovered. And a lot of people talk about it. It's cool as you if you research Bufo and look into it, like it's really interesting how it's come to our culture like now in this time and age through it's almost like this spirit that we need, and so many people are using it. Of course you can misuse anything too, so I don't want
Sure.
to like put this out as like everybody should smoke Bufo, but if you're feeling called to it and you have trauma that you're looking to work out and you're in a very make sure you're with a very safe you're making yourself very vulnerable, so you got
Right.
to make sure that you're around people who really know what they're doing and they care about you and all of that. But it can be
Okay.
very healing medicine, and I think
Okay.
it came to us during this time to help heal people.
Okay. Yeah, it makes good
Yeah.
sense. I'm intrigued to learn more. Okay, so just getting
Mhm.
back to it, you said that you had this phenomenal experience. You see the gates of heaven, and you say to yourself, "Well, I don't want this to have to happen every single time I have to have this psychedelic experience. I want to try to invite this into my life and have this experience all the time."
Mhm.
Is that fair?
Yeah, like you
Okay.
have to keep coming down. Like you come up and then you come back down and then you come up and then it's like, oh, I don't want to be addicted to having to go smoke bufo. I don't want to
Right.
always need psychedelics. They're a great way to show like the potential that we all have within us. And I was getting the sense too because I was became very interested in the Ramayana, the story that we're talking about with Hanuman. That was my entryway into reading scripture.
Right.
That it's a story of a 10-headed demon and a princess that's stolen by the demon and then rescued by a giant army of animals and monkeys. It's like, okay, yeah, I want to read that story. So
Right.
that lured me into reading scripture in a new way and being very interested in that. And so with that, I also became interested in the Bhagavad Gita as well as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And those stories, uh, after reading those stories, and sometimes even just after buying the book and putting it on my desk, I would have, say, a mushroom trip experience in my studio where I just close the doors and take high doses
Right.
of psilocybin, and the stories would come to life. Like literally, I would become a character in the story, and I would be having the experience of the hero and sometimes the villain. I think we talked about it a little bit in the last one about, me becoming Ravana, or so I was just having these experiences with these great scriptures and recognizing, wow, these are describing a lot of the experiences I was having with psychedelics. And Ram
Uh,
Dass talks about that a lot too. And he and Timothy Leary wrote a book called The Psychedelic Experience, which is breaks down the Tibetan Book of the Dead into psychedelic trip language.
hmm. Do you
So I
feel
was
like
just, yeah. Mhm.
these, I mean, these incredibly historical, books and stories, do you, I know it relates to the psychedelic experience. Is there actually some evidence that they were created from, having a psychedelic experience? Is there an actual connection between the two?
I think, in my experience and in thinking about that topic a lot is I think what's happening is we're experiencing the same realities. We can experience the same reality in meditation practice
Hmm.
because I think what's happening with psychedelic compounds is removing the filters. Like our brain is just filtering out the infinite down
Right.
to a cultivate we over time our brains uh, filter out more and more of like what we say yes to and what we say no to, and
Hmm.
then we can limit ourselves. So everybody is having a completely different experience here on planet Earth. We're not in the
Right.
same movie. So I think what's happening with the psychedelic compounds is that they're eliminating a lot of these filters,
I
so
see.
everything is
Okay.
available.
Okay. Yeah.
So psychedelics can be unpredictable as a way to find God for sure.
Right. So maybe
But
through
yeah.
evolution, these filters almost have been, built in over the years. And maybe, when these books were written thousands of years ago, maybe there wasn't as many filters. And so you could have these kinds of incredible experiences.
I think you're
Sure.
right. Yes, it was expanded consciousness, so more was possible.
Right.
Magic was not called magic because it was just daily life.
Right. 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 That's so interesting. So
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay. So so you're there and now you're ready to you're starting to study some of these books and you're getting to a space where you realize like there's a lot more to this that you want to expose yourself to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going, because the Hindu scriptures and the Tibetan Buddhist scriptures were really speaking to me. I was like, okay, I know what I'm looking for is there. I know
Mm,
that it's contained within these people. There are people out there who know things that I don't, and there are awakened masters. And listening to Ram Dass talk about Neem Karoli Baba, who was his guru in India, who they say is actually a manifestation of Hanuman,
mm.
that was walking the earth in our, not too distant or early past, not too previous past.
Yep.
That I knew that what I was looking for was out there, and I knew that there were teachers who could teach me to train my mind, and I knew that nirvana was possible. So I wanted to find a lighthouse. So when I'm having these big experiences, when I would get caught into a dilemma in my mind, that I would always be able to call on my guru and he would be my lighthouse, which is just a symbol of God or my inner self that I could
Mm,
trust wholeheartedly, knowing that I'm not going to be embarrassed later on for following this path. I'm not going to be like following some charlatan or somebody that's later on discovered to be just somebody that they're not, or using these tools to trick people. I knew that there were real awakened masters like Christ, like Buddha,
right.
that are currently available to us and can teach us and are here when we're ready to help us find our way. So I was praying for that. I was asking for that. I wanted what Ram Dass had, but I didn't know how it would happen because I was like, well, I have this life that's so far off from me traveling to India to find a guru. Like I have a wife, I have a career. I feel like I'm meant to be here in this place now. And it just seems so far out. I remember reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead and just being so sad that I didn't have like a group of monk friends who were going to read the Tibetan Book of the Dead to me as I was on my deathbed and all this stuff. It just seemed like so far away from
Yeah.
my life that I didn't think it was really going to happen. But I was meditating every day and I was praying for it because I knew I really wanted it and I needed it. And it was about a year after practicing meditation every day, that I was looking for another book around the Bhagavad Gita. It's like the Bhagavad Gita was just coming up in my trips. I was just loving hearing about that experience and reading about it. So I wanted to find like more commentary on the Bhagavad Gita to understand it better. And I found a book called The Essence of the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda.
Mm,
And it said, it's also known to be channeled work. Like Swami Kriyananda, he in his lifetime wrote 150 publications, mostly books,
wow. Wow.
400 songs. He wrote plays. He has about, they say, I think 6,000 recorded lectures.
Wow.
It's just
What was his lifespan from when to when?
ah, I don't know what
Oh
his,
yeah, you
but
said that you're not the time thing
yeah, I'm bad
isn't.
with dates there,
Yeah.
but I
Okay.
know he passed away. I think it was like 2013,
Okay. So
I
fairly
believe, is when
recently.
he left the body.
Okay.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
not too long ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I just missed meeting him in person.
Wow. Wow.
Uh, but he was just a channel for Yogananda and is carrying on Yogananda's
Mm,
work, and that's how Ananda started. So he
okay.
he wrote this, he channeled this book, The Essence of the Bhagavad Gita, which just sounds just like it's like Yogananda just speaking through him
Wow.
and just going through all of the characters and the situations in the Bhagavad Gita, and also talking about how the Bible is very similar in the same way, that these are esoteric scriptures that are steeped in mystery, and there's so much that is hidden within the words, that
Mm,
unless you have like someone like Christ or an awakened master like Yogananda breaking it down and giving you experiential understanding of it, you're just really scratching the surface. And that's where a
right.
lot of dogma comes from, the
Right.
people like taking things out of context, or making strange moral codes around things that are actually just symbolism. So
Mm,
this book, I was listening to the audiobook while I was drawing, and it was just all of the questions that I've had about the nature of reality, about ancient civilizations. Even he even got into extraterrestrials and
wow.
everything. And just it was just so like confidently just answering every question that I had, and everything was just like, wow, that feels very true. Like,
Mm,
wow, wow. It was just blowing my mind. And I just loved that book so much. And so, and in that book, he was obviously talking about Paramhansa Yogananda, who is known to be as an avatar guru, which an avatar is an awakened master. You can think of life on earth as a school, like a curriculum.
mm,
And there are these awakened masters who have practiced meditation just like Christ. They're just, Christ is just like us. They say Christ didn't come here to show us how great he is, but how great we
we
are.
are. Yeah.
And so these awakened masters, they graduate the curriculum, they graduate the college, and then they come back to be an example, to show us the way of how we can
Mm,
graduate as well. And so
right.
that's kind of a way to look at Paramhansa Yogananda. And there's a lineage of this same vibration, this energy that's been like, Christ didn't go, when Christ died, his energy didn't leave the earth, it was passed.
Right.
So they say like Krishna, Christ, this same energy kept getting passed through bodies,
Mm,
and here it never left the earth. So it's not like Christ went away, we all just wait for, in sorrow, waiting
right.
for him to come back one day. It's been here all along.
Yeah.
And if we're actually looking for it and asking for it. So that's how I feel about Yogananda, that he is
That's
that
pretty cool.
spirit. And
It's amazing.
so after reading that book, Kriyananda was talking about Yogananda and his book, Autobiography of a Yogi. So most people, like a lot of people have heard of that book. It is actually one of the top selling autobiographies ever printed.
Oh, wow. Autobiography of a
Yeah.
yogi.
Yeah, Autobiography of a Yogi. And that is like a calling card for Yogananda. So if you read that book and you're ready, so if you're hearing this now and you're hearing about this book, some of you may hear it and you'll be like, oh, that's cool. And then you won't go get it. You won't pick it up. Some of you will hear it now and be like, oh, okay, I gotta go listen to that now.
Yeah.
And it'll hit you when, and you'll read it when you're ready. You may think, oh, I want to go read that, and it'll just leave your it'll be like your mind was erased until you're ready. Someone will mention it again, and when you're ready, you'll read it or whatever. It's like I won't get into that, but it's it's a really fascinating book. And when I read that book, he's talking about the science of Kriya Yoga,
Mm,
which is the way to awaken. It's the way that every master has. Kriya Yoga is like the keys to awakening your consciousness. You can get there in myriad different ways, but this is the way that this lineage of gurus has passed it through time. Krishna, Christ, Lahiri Maharshaya, Swami Sri
mm,
Yukteswar, uh, Paramhansa Yogananda, Swami Kriyananda have been passing this technique through time to allow us to become like them.
okay.
And so I was hearing that. I was like, okay, I want to take Kriya Yoga. How do I take Kriya Yoga? And looking up uh, Swami Kriyananda, and then finding, oh, wow, Ananda has online courses. It's about a year. It takes about a year of training, and you get to start over. Like, I had been practicing meditation for about 10 years at that time. Maybe about 8 years, like dabbling.
Yep.
I was doing a lot of different things that I kind of call meditation. I think we talked about like lucid dreaming and
Yes.
sensory deprivation tanks and whatever I could do to build a bridge to uh, leave my body.
Yeah. This is all in an attempt to relive the experience, that psychedelic experience that you had, in a way that you can call on it whenever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That makes me, it draws me more and more closer to the psychedelic experience. As you know, I haven't had one myself, but like every time I hear about it, it makes me want to at least experience it, because I love the fact that it's not something where you're like, oh, you got to try this drug and go back and do it again and again and again, and that's the only thing that can feed your soul. This is kind of like, this is the door to this incredible experience that you can have whenever you want. But you have to find, first of all, you have to have the experience, and then you have to find the path to have this experience regularly when you want it, so you don't ever have to come down. And I think that's really, it's almost feels like you're handing someone a treasure map. There's
Mhm.
gold at the end of this map. You got to follow. It's perilous, and it's going to be emotional, and it'll feel like a roller coaster at time, and sometimes you're going to feel like you're going to give up. But if you want to get there, then you have to just follow the map. This is the way you go. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, and it's cool. Like talking to you, it's always fun to talk to friends who haven't had psychedelic experiences, but you already have like a pretty good in talk. It happens a lot. Like I'll talk to friends and I like, are you sure you haven't already had psychedelic experience? But you probably have had these, or I'm sure that you had in past lives these understandings that your soul understands, and in peak moments in your life it's rekindled through even just being in nature or being
Yeah,
close to another human, or
yeah,
being with having conversations with people, or listening to great music, or seeing something that's really inspiring, can rekindle that same vibration, that same remembering that there's so much more to
yeah.
life than this mundane reality that we.
You said something just now, about 5 minutes ago, when you said that you were talking about autobiography of a yogi, and you said these books call to you. Maybe you're not ready for it yet. You'll hear it, and then you'll hear it again, and then eventually you'll read it. But you'll read it when it's the right time to read it. Um, it it made me think about when I was in my third year of university, studying psychology. And back then, I don't know what schools like, what universities like today, but you're essentially just handed all of these textbooks, and they said, go read. And then we're going to give you a multiple choice of 300 questions and some short answer and that's some essay. And, you know, I had to read because I had no choice. So I would read. But for my breaks, because I had to read, all this academic, and some of it was interesting and some of it not so much. And so like statistical analysis and stuff, like I love the idea of statistical analysis, but to actually kind of figure all of it out, the data and the numbers and stuff, it sometimes drove me nuts. But for fun, I'd be studying at Chapters or Indigo or Barnes and Noble. And for fun, my breaks would be like reading something that I just genuinely wanted to read. And so I'm like looking on a bookshelf, and there's one book sticking out, and it's Martin Luther King Jr.'s autobiography. And it's literally sticking out of the bookshelf. So I walk over to it and I pick it up, and I don't usually read the front and back of books. I open a book and I read a page. And if it speaks to me, then I sit down with the book. And I open the book, and Martin Luther King Jr. is talking about death in this quote. And he says this kind of, I have this kind of memory. I feel like you, to a degree, when you have these quotes that stick out to you and you just internalize them, you keep them for the rest of your life. And and maybe a reason why I'm an author is I just love the way that you can take words and mix them up in a way, and you can cause someone to smile, and then make someone laugh, and then make someone cry, just by rearranging the exact same words. So that's very appealing to me. Martin Luther King said, in this one quote, and I may not get it exactly right, but this is the message. He says, death is not the period that comes after the long sentence of life. It is the comma that punctuates it to a much more lofty significance.
Mm.
And
Yeah, he knows.
I read that. Yeah. And I was like, wow, like it hit me. And I read the whole book. And what I found in reading that book was the message and the lessons that Martin Luther King Jr., I mean, they're world renowned because of what he did during the civil rights movement. But the way that he put his message across, the way that he was able to sew and stitch his words together were so provocative and meaningful and deliberate that it changed the way that I speak, and it changed the way that I write, and it changed the way that I see things. Just that one book. And
Mm-hmm.
it led me to, he was talking about the people that inspired him. And he said that when he was thinking about what he needed to do during the civil rights movement, he thought about Gandhi's mission to gain political independence for India. And he went out and bought all these books for Gandhi. And I was like, wow, like somebody that inspired Martin Luther King Jr. So I went and I got Gandhi's autobiography and I read that from cover to cover. And I was so inspired. And that's when, the traditions of Hinduism came to me. I came to my mind. And because he talks about it so, with so much passion and love. And, but anyways, my whole
Mm-hmm.
point is these books, they come to you at a point in your life when you need them the most, and the messages and the value can stay with you and lead you to these other spaces. And so if I didn't read those books, there's a good chance I wouldn't even be sitting here with the appreciation for all of the things that we're talking about today. So I only say all of this to support the point that you just made, that sometimes in the moment you may not realize it, but that when it does call you, it can change your life.
So yeah, I love what you said about Martin Luther King Jr. It made me think about when I was starting to wrap my mind around this idea of a guru, and it came through Ram Dass talking about his guru. There's a it's a similar way, say like I have images of Paramahansa Yogananda and the gurus, and when I do my meditations, I stare at the image and I it's what's called attuning yourself to someone. So when you read the works of someone like Martin Luther King Jr., and you hear his speeches and you say to yourself, like, I want to be like that.
Mm.
That I want to talk like that. I want to have an impact like that. I want my life to be something like that. That's really, you can look at an image of anybody that is your hero. That's why we put like posters up on the wall. If you want to be more like Einstein, put a poster of Einstein up on your wall, stare at it, read about him, do
Mm.
everything that you can to like attune yourself to that, and you will become more like him.
Right.
That spirit, is
Yes.
available.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's what we do when we find a truly awakened master, and that's what we're doing with Christ. As you, if you're looking at Christ as he is your guru, you want to be like Christ, you read the Bible, so whatever you want to attune yourself to, we can do that. So that's in really what it is to work with an awakened master. You put up images of it, you read autobiography of a yogi, you listen to talks, to all of this kind of stuff, and then you go, I want to be like Paramahansa Yogananda.
Mm.
I want to be like Buddha, like Gandhi. And every day you focus in on, I want to be like, and these beings, they don't die. They can work with you. It's a channel for God to be able to, because our brains need, at first, we need an image, we need a person, someone with a voice. It can't just be like abstract. It can, I guess, depending on your level of
Right.
awareness and consciousness. I need a picture. I need at least something that I need a picture of Hanuman. I need a picture of Ganesha. These are all just ways for our human brains to attune to something that we want to invoke, and we want to be able to become like, and to
Yeah.
be. So I wanted to, with my meditation practice, I wanted to become the person that I really thought that really saw in my deep meditations, the person that I was in my psychedelic journeys. I would look in the mirror and I would see a new version of myself that would be possible, but I was so far from getting there.
Mm.
So Yogananda became, I was like, okay, this is is my path. This is my way to do that. He is my lighthouse. I feel it so strong after reading this book, the same way you did with Martin Luther King
Yeah.
Jr. You feel it, and I want to emulate that. I want to be like that. He's my lighthouse. When I'm
Yeah.
in need, what would Yogananda do? What would Christ do? What would Buddha do?
Right. Right.
And then you always have that thing. And he that book that he has is also filled with lives of great saints. Originally, he was going to call the book the Yogi Christ of India.
Oh, wow. That would have got a lot of attention.
Right, but it was like too much, I think, for the West
Yeah.
to really
Yeah.
stomach that. So it became autobiography of a yogi, and basically him as a child, he went around and visited all of these great saints of India and tells their stories.
Oh,
And you
wow.
realize like how many Jedis are walking the earth, So
That's really
I
cool.
just, yeah. So it
So
was
you,
like, yeah, go ahead.
so I was going to say, so you read the autobiography and you're like, okay, I need more of this. So how do you now bring this into your life? How does this become part of your everyday practice?
So in the autobiography of a yogi, there's chapters on there's a chapter called the science of Kriya Yoga, I believe, where he just breaks down the scientific in a way that if you were a scientist and you wanted to do an experiment, you would set up, okay, you do the experiment in this way, you perform these actions, you do it properly, you do it repetitively, you do it in the same way, and you have other test groups all doing it.
Yes.
What is the result is so that's how it's the scientific practice of Kriya Yoga. If you do this, you keep doing it, you keep practicing it, and you do it in the way that it's meant to be done, you will awaken from the dream. You will become like Christ. You will become like Yogananda. It takes time. It takes discipline. But it's bhakti. It's love. So you're loving it. It's not easy. The Bhagavad Gita is a story of battles against all of the inner forces that are arrayed in battled with weapons against you. All of your
Yeah.
desires, your aversions, your ways you want to change the world. So I guess this is really how I found Ananda. And then I was like, okay, I want to take these courses. And because I've been practicing meditation for a while, but
Mhm.
the courses were start again is like get your white belt, really is the way that
Right.
I was thinking. How
Right.
do you sit? What kind of cushion do you use? Do you use a bench? Do you sit
Oh,
in a
wow. So it
chair?
starts very rudimentary, just like this is how it
Mm-hmm.
all begins. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody who doesn't necessarily have a background in it can also take, if they wanted to go through the same process, they could start right from the beginning.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
You can have no experience in meditation and they will like give you like step one.
That's
And
great.
I was really liking that. I was like, yeah, I want to be taught from the beginning. Like
Yeah.
I grew up really interested. I had hip surgeries and stuff, so I could never really practice martial arts, but I always had like a really high respect for like jujitsu and things like kung fu, and having that sort of discipline practice and having a sensei and someone just like, let's start from the beginning. Nothing. I want
Right.
to, and so that was really how it started. But it heats up real quick. So after the first course, which was like 12 weeks, I was like, all right, I'm ready for the next one. I'm ready for the next one. And I was just going through it and loving it. And
Are these
I mean,
live
it's
courses? Is your guru there across the, can you say like I'm looking at you or?
so it's a combination of weekly satsangs through Zoom,
Okay.
or you can, or if you're close to a center, you can go take them in person.
Okay.
And they have centers all over the US and in India and in Europe and things like that. I didn't have one close to me. So I was taking them all online. And so you could have weekly satsangs with and it's you work with monks that live at Ananda Village or at the different centers around monks, or what they call Naya Swamis, which is a new Swami order that was created by Swami Kriyananda. And so you work with these teachers that are high level Kriyaban yogis, and studying all of this kind of stuff for a long time. And so you get to, you have talks, lectures that are sent to you from Swami Kriyananda and from others, written course material, quizzes that you take. And so just make sure that in different ways, just making sure you really know the material and that you learn it, and then you put it into you take it into meditations. It's not
Mm,
like a real like cerebral thing. You want to learn all those things, obviously, but then you take it into meditation and you feel it and you experience it. And then,
okay.
yeah, so it was really, really great working that way. So after about a year, I was ready to take Kriya initiation, and I did that online through Zoom. So when I went to with Ananda Village here just last week, I actually got to renew my Kriya Yoga vows and take a Kriya initiation ceremony in person with the Naya Swamis there
Wow.
and with all of the people. And it was, yeah, it was just such a wonderful thing. And my brother Matt was there with me. He took his Kriya initiation, back in April. So we got to both go renew our vows there with everybody. And
And what
yeah,
do
it
the
was just
vows?
magic.
Is it just a commitment to the process? What are the vows exactly?
You're promising to practice Kriya Yoga and making, you're making a commitment to yourself and to your guru, who is really yourself.
Right, right.
uh, you're just saying, you're saying like, this is so important and valuable to me that I'm going to do this. I'm really going to do this. And you also vow that you're not going to share it with others. The reason why you don't share the technique with others is not because it's like some mystical technique that you don't want to like it's really because you want to make it something really important in your life when you take it,
Mm,
when you're ready to like say, I'm actually going to do this. It's not like a pranayama technique where you're just doing breathing exercises and getting a rush,
right.
which those are great. I love pranayama, and we all do pranayama. It's part of the practice, but it's in a connection with your higher self, with your guru, and it's a commitment, and it's a way to awakening. So you just want to make sure that you're really being sincere when you're doing
Okay.
it. So you
So
don't want to
Kriya
just share it
Yoga.
with your friends.
Okay. So Kriya Yoga is not something that you can go get at your local yoga studio. You in order to get there, you have to do these courses and you have to make this commitment and you get, access.
Yeah, that's how it's traditionally done. And so, and I liked that. I was ready for it to be like that. I wanted it to be like that. And so yeah, so that's how I got there to it. And being in the space, Ananda Village, I guess I can talk about the actual environment there a little
Yeah,
bit.
please.
It it's in California, just about 2.5 hours from the airport in Sacramento, and you drive out into the Sierra Nevada mountains, and
How long is the drive
very
from the airport?
it's about a little over 2 hours
Okay. Wow. Beautiful
from the
drive.
airport. Yeah, yeah, beautiful drive, and then the property there, I believe it's about 1,000 acres
Wow.
out there, and they've built what's called the Temple of Light that was all done by Swami's designs. We can maybe link to some photos that I
Yeah,
took of it,
definitely. Mm.
where it's just this beautiful dome structure temple where light shines in from the roof, and there's like a lotus pond around. There's deer that will just roam pretty close to people with no fear. The birds
Wow.
are, I feel like, more harmoniously singing than I've ever heard in my life. There's foxes, there's wild turkeys walking around, and
Wow.
coyotes and deer and rabbits. And you just feel like you're in another world. When the sun goes down, the sky is just infinite stars and vast space
Wow.
because there's no light pollution, and it's just magical. It really felt like my brother and I were out there. We're used to doing medicine ceremonies and feeling like this, but just being out there around all of these really high vibration people who've all practicing, and they're here to wake up, and they're here to help
Mm.
each other. Everybody is part of the community. There's about 250 people that live out there and build houses, and everybody, it's like this idea of sort of like I don't know if you ever watched like the show My Little Pony. It's like this thing of like friendship is magic. Every friend knows how to do something, so
Oh,
everybody
wow.
is sort of like helping. Like when one guy knows how to fix cars, one guy knows how to fix air conditioners and golf carts, and another, everybody
That's
knows how
pretty
to do
cool.
something. So you have like, there's electricians, there's
Are
you
there
know
children there?
Yeah, there's children there as well. Yeah. Hmm.
Wow.
And so it's just this wonderful example of a really thriving community. I think I didn't realize that that really existed, that there was something like this going on, and it's
Mm,
been going on since the late 60s.
wow.
And it's a really a blueprint and example of that, that's a possibility. And they've also now, like, what they do is they built it, started at Ananda Village in California, and then it's branched out, and there's villages all over the US, and starting them in other places around the world, like India and in Italy. And so this is actually like happening. It's a real thing. It's kind of like visiting the future and
Wow.
seeing what it's like in the future, where there's expanded consciousness.
So, when you went to the retreat, were there people from all around the world that came out, or were they predominantly from the US?
All over.
Oh,
Yeah, all
really?
over the world. Hmm. Yeah.
And when they come to, they all come with their own level of experience. Was there anybody that came at it from a fresh start, like meaning like they didn't necessarily have a background but were drawn there and came there for their first kind of experience,
Hmm.
or were these people all, do they all come in with some level of experience?
I think during Spiritual Renewal Week, which is like the big yearly gathering, somebody called it like the World Cup of Yogis, which I thought was kind
That's
of cool.
cool. Yeah.
But most of the time, if you come there, you're probably have a pretty solid meditation practice, and
Okay.
you're on your way to at least Kriya initiation, because it includes like 2-hour meditations and long
Right.
talks and things like that. But they also, the place is open all the time. You can come there if you just want to go spend some time, and in the they have housing there. You just want to come spend some time in nature and meditate in the temples and have like a meditation retreat. There's gardens there. You could take a seclusion and just
Wow.
go live in the most beautiful garden out in the woods there. And they, have food, wonderful food cooked for you, and then ring a bell at certain points of the day, and you can go do that. So any level that you're at. They also have a program called Karma Yoga, where like if you're not ready to meditate, but you see the value of spiritual practice and you want to start getting into it, you can serve. Like, you can go there and like help out in the kitchen, or you can help out with, with something like Spiritual Renewal Week. You could cook meals for, help out that way. You can wash dishes, you could do work in the yard, all that
Oh, I
kind of
see.
stuff. So people can work, do like good things and feel good about themselves and be in that environment, and then learn to meditate slowly. So there's, yeah, all kinds of ways for people to participate. And so I'm looking forward to bringing friends there just to go
Yeah.
see the place.
Could you see yourself, retiring is not the right word. Can you see yourself being in that space later on in your life?
It's so appealing to me to be there. And like a lot of friends that I talk to is like, yeah, that's just sort of the dream. Oh, I want to live out in the mountains away from everybody. But you don't have to
Mm,
live away from everybody. What if you just lived with people who like cared about you and had your best interests, and we were all
yeah.
trying to wake up together? That would be great.
Yeah.
And so that would be so wonderful. I think right now for me, in talking to my teachers and telling them about what I'm doing with my career and where I'm at, one of my main Kriya teachers, they just looked me in the eye and she's like, you're following your Dharma right now. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And
Mm,
so that is a really nice, because that's what I want to be doing.
sure.
I don't want to have a desire or aversion to anything. I just want to be in harmony with
Yeah.
the song that's being played.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's,
Um,
yeah.
and if somebody said, this is where I would want to spend the rest of my life, how does that happen? Like, how do you get to a space? This isn't like retiring in Florida. So how do you get to a space where you could be a part of this community and live out your days?
Yeah, what a lot of people do is they just sort of naturally starts happening in their own town, their like area. It's like you might start to think, oh, wow, simpler living and being out you might start to create a community around where you live.
Hmm.
Like you might think, oh, let me just build a little tiny house. Let me just get a little property out in nature and I'll build a little house. And then maybe we can just stay there on weekends. And then, oh, let's add to it a little bit. And add, oh,
Right.
like another friend sees that and they, oh, let me build a little tiny house out here. And I think that's kind of how it starts.
Oh,
You just go
interesting.
like, wow. And then, oh, maybe we'll spend a few more days out here. I think that's kind of how it starts happening. Or if you wanted to go to Ananda Village, yeah, I don't know quite the details there, but I think if you're a Kriyaban and there's space out there, you work out a way where you join the community and you're part of,
Wow.
like, you have responsibilities where you're helping out there and you can build a house on the property and
Wow.
connect into all the resources there. But it's
Very
just a
cool.
wonderful, yeah. And that's sort of, that's like recession proof, that's pandemic proof, that's like
Yeah. It's kind of like, yeah, where it's like, it sounds like, kind of paradise on earth to a degree. It seems like it's when you surround you, like you said, like when you're able to surround yourself with people that lift you up, and the currency is lifting each other up, right? I think that's how you exist in that space. That's something that I think you strive for in your family and in your friendships and in your place of employment. You're trying to build that wherever you go, if you think about it, in a micro space. And so on a more of a macro level, like how cool would that be to be completely surrounded by that? That'd be cool
you
for the
can
world to get to
feel it.
that space.
Yeah, 100%. It's
Yeah.
like I think you nail it with that. It's like you get a sense of like, what it could really be like, what the world, what I could really feel like day to
Yeah.
day. My brother and I were noticing that we were just walking around, like by the middle of the week, it's just like we're just like everywhere you go, you're just smiling.
That's
It just
amazing.
feels like, wow, this is real. Like this is really happening. We just kept like, are we just gonna wake up? This is not real. This can't be real.
Wow.
It's like,
Wow.
oh, it is real. And you just get a glimpse of what it could really feel like to be a human on Earth.
Yeah.
And then they also say, the main, they say we're not meant to be just in a paradise, because there's still mosquitoes, there's still things that go wrong. While we were there, we almost had to evacuate because there was a mile and a half radius forest fire that was 12 miles away and
Wow.
coming our way. When they originally built the Ananda Village, the whole place burnt down like right after they got it. Houses built, everybody there was all going
Wow.
smoothly. The whole place burned down. They didn't take any money from the state or anything like that, and they rebuilt it again. So, very similar to that
Incredible.
story about uh, uh, with when the creator of the light bulb was name that we talked about last time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's
So
pretty amazing. And this is all part of the history of this village.
yeah, so
Wow.
they say it's yeah, the history is wonderful. There's a book called Light Bearer that tells like the whole story, and they've had everything thrown at them, anything that you can think of, people trying to take them down or accusing Swami of just things. It's just insane accusations that all none of it stuck. And so they've been tried by fire for so many years, and now it's like I'm so like happy that I get to go see where it is now and to enjoy the fruits of all the hard work and to be a part of it.
So when you say Swami, who is Swami?
So Swami Kriyananda, he's a direct disciple of Paramhansa Yogananda, and he was with Paramhansa Yogananda the last 4 years of his life. And he he was helping to edit Yogananda's books, because he would speak them. Yogananda would just speak the books into the universe, and then they would be recorded and put into books, and edit them
Right.
in a way that you can read them and things like that. And he was just always there. He was his, like, a lot of times his scribe, like all of
Okay.
it. There's wonderful books of like everything that he was saying. He was just recording,
Wow. Okay.
always there with them. And he just is like a channel. And he really took on what Yogananda's big mission was that the future of the planet is going to be to create these communities. and it will be the spiritual genius of India combined with the ingenuity of the West, the all of the inventions and the technological advances of the West. When those two worlds come together and people are living harmoniously in that way, that's his mission. So Swami just is taken on that mission, like a force.
Really?
Yeah, and he just brought the whole thing on his back. Like when they
Wow.
first started Spiritual Renewal Week, like he was doing all the classes, the Kriya initiations. He was just organizing the whole thing,
Wow.
and leading the meditations and creating the yoga, like the physical yoga courses, and leading everything. And so now so many people have joined forces, and now his energy, now that he's left the body, is now out into hundreds,
Right. And
thousands of others.
they keep that spirit going and alive and thriving. And
Mhm.
how many villages are there in the world?
I'm not sure. There's quite a few that have been popping up. So
Okay.
yeah, if you do a little research on it, you can find it. And there's a movie that Swami also wrote and directed
Oh,
called
wow.
Finding Happiness that
Okay.
talks about it as well. Yeah.
There was I know this is not, there was a documentary that was done. It's on Netflix, and I can't remember the group, but there was a lot of people. They all wore red, and they followed this guru. And then it turned out, like, I think they ended up turning on him, and then one of his disciples, I can't remember her name, they kind of turned on her. And so I think it's one of those things where media can sensationalize, you know especially when these things occur, and almost everyone gets painted with the exact same brush. um, I guess that probably is what Swami fell prey to, the fact that you can look at one thing and say, well, then they're all like this, and then so that's more
Mhm.
of a cult, or that's like a following of people that have lost their mind. Is that something that um, is pervasive? Like, do you feel like that's something where people make these kinds of assumptions when they hear about groups and retreats like this?
I think so. I think a lot of people have that fear, and of course, I had that fear as well, wondering if this is something. And that was for that period of like 8 years of practicing meditation and praying for the lighthouse
Mm,
to arrive. That's what I was asking for. I wanted to
right.
know, is there the real thing, cutting away all of this, these charlatans and people pretending. I wanted
Yeah.
to know, is there something out there that I can follow, like Buddha, like Christ, like Gandhi, that is the real deal.
Mm,
And that's what I've discovered in this. I've never had a red flag. I've never, every time, the more that I learn and the more that I meet these people, is just more and more just confirmation that this is the light of. So I feel very, very confident in it, and being able to, because I want to take my practice into a place where I'm just looking to awaken. And that's what they say. Like, they're like, yeah, with all of this, like, our goal isn't, we are a great sustainable environmental place. We eat vegetarian, we do good things on the earth, but it's not about those things. It's really about self-realization,
mm,
individually, people waking up, becoming like the masters.
right.
That's the focus. And so the theme of the whole retreat that I was at, they said the theme is uplift yourself, uplift the world.
Mm,
And they said that previously they were thinking about the theme, and had it as change yourself, change the world. But that actually uplift yourself, uplift the world is more accurate to the
right.
mission. So I made some notes. I guess we could kind of run through these real quickly.
Yeah, because I was going to say, so what are some of the takeaways that you can share, with everyone who's tuning in right now, and for those of us who are interested in maybe pursuing it and finding out more?
Yeah, like to give you a sense of the kind of things they talk about. This is Jyotish. He's the new he's Jyotish and his wife Devi. They're now the new leaders of an Ananda Village that carried that torch after Swami left the body, that he passed it on to them. And I mean, when they come onto the stage or they're in front of me, I just like I was, waking, flying over, having some jet lag, and waking up at 5:30 and 5:15 in the morning or whatever, and starting my yoga practice, and then sitting in front and listening to a lecture. You can sometimes feel a little groggy, but then as soon as they walk onto the stage, it was just like like I was just alert, awake,
Wow.
like energy just rushing up my body and just paying attention. It
Now,
was
did they
really
have
cool.
direct, were they, do they have direct experience with Swami during his life?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. They were really there from the beginning with him the
Wow.
whole way. Yeah, really early on, after he started Ananda.
Did you get a
And
chance to speak with them personally as well and spend time with them?
yeah, yes, yeah. So I
Wow.
got to meet them in person, have a little chat with
That's
them,
amazing.
and yeah, so that was really really cool. Feel really
Cool.
really blessed by that. So
Cool.
Jyotish, when he came up, he was talking about this theme of uplift yourself, uplift the world, and made some notes here. Some of the things he was saying. He said that this is a much different concept than changing things, changing the world. If we think about changing the world, it's very much different than thinking about uplifting yourself and uplifting the world. He said that most people look around and see a world that needs changing. And he says, well, I certainly do as well. Obviously, things that you want to change in politics, you wish the weather was better, you wish the traffic was better, you wish the healthcare was better, you wish that people weren't so divisive, and all of these kind of things that you would like to change. You see things that you want to change in the world. But he said there's a big difference in motivation between wanting to uplift the world and wanting to change the world so that you don't have to change. So he was
Mm.
saying, if you think about wanting to change the world, like, why do you want to change the world? He was saying that really the way that God works on us is actually through our discomfort. So if you're looking to change the world and make it just the way that you like it, if you could go through and just fix everything and make it just the way you like it, then actually you wouldn't have to change.
Wow. That's good. That's really good. I've never heard of it
Yeah,
like that, but that is true.
yeah, yeah. You said that because uplifting the world up or uplifting yourself implies that everything needs to be changed. And it needs to be changed because we are suffering.
Mm.
So because we're suffering, we're like, okay, well, I gotta change things. And if you think about like changing the world, if you're gonna go into battle with changing this world, oh man, you're up for a real. He was saying that I think a really great way to really put it into perspective. He said, well, okay, so imagine if you go around wanting to do that. Believe it or not, not everyone wants to be changed just to the form that you want them to be changed into.
True. So true.
If you put like three people in a room, like we'll all be trying to change each other.
Yeah. It's like the unwinnable battle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So he said also like okay, a lot of people will ask the questions if we have these great masters that come in and they have the power to change the world, like why don't they come in and change it, and why don't they make it better for us?
Mm.
And he says, he put it in an analogy. He was talking about like imagine yourself in a dream. He had an example of a dream, but you just imagine yourself in a dream where you're in this mess of a dream. It's a really gross world. You're having like a really you're suffering and you're having a difficult experience. Then you wake up from that dream and you go, oh, it was just a dream. Okay, wow, good. Oh, I feel good. All right, I feel better. And you maybe have some residuals that you just need to work out that trauma from the dream for a little bit. But we're so blessed that the dream doesn't stick in our mind. Before you know it, you're like, you can't even remember it. It's
Right.
gone.
Right.
Do you have any desire to go back into that dream and go clean up the mess?
Hmm. Not at
So
all.
he, is that something that you want to do? Like you're like, oh, well, I got to get back in there and go clean that up. So he was saying that the great masters, it's similar. They understand that this life is a dream, this life is a play, it's a movie. it's here for just for us to learn and to grow. He said that the great masters are not interested in cleaning up the dream mess. They're only interested in waking us up from the dream and helping us who are suffering in the dream not to suffer while we're in the dream.
Wow. Wow.
So it's like
That's
so
good.
comforting, you know?
That's really good. So how, I guess, there's levels to it. I think about there's some people who are, if this is a dream, they are suffering, and so how do you, so for those of us who are born into circumstances where, you are oppressed, or you are you may not necessarily see yourself like, from the outside looking in, you could very much look like a victim. So it could be a, especially like a child who's born into a situation that you wouldn't, wish upon your worst enemy's child. Um, how do those people awaken from the dream?
You hear, and I hear a lot of heroic stories of people that I really admire, and I really appreciate what they've done in their life and the people that they become. And they usually start with, I had this really tragic, terrible thing
Mm,
happen to me.
yes, very true.
It's not, I don't think I've ever heard a heroic story about someone who has just become the best version of themselves that didn't start that way.
Hmm.
So, and then if I think back into my own life, the reasons why I've like actually changed and become better is because I had to overcome some obstacle, some challenge.
Right.
I think what happened, it seems from what Jyotish is saying in this talk, is that God gives us these things. We're actually not supposed to be here and just live in a dream world where everything is perfect and we don't have to do, because if we were just floating around in this dream world, everything was just the way we wanted it all the time, we wouldn't actually develop character.
Mm,
We would maybe become like, I don't, it's actually through the difficulties and the hardships that we learn to be able to have empathy for other people,
yeah.
and we get character. Like anybody, say if you're in the military, you pride yourself on how difficult that was to go through. Your training, your everything that you've done has made you the person that you are. You have grit, you have discipline, all of this. You
Mm,
wouldn't have got that if they just said, well, just come in here and we're just going to have, like, all your great breakfast is set up and you're just going to,
right.
have a pleasure dome. you
Yes.
wouldn't have you wouldn't have become that person that has all of those skills and
True.
attributes. So it's
That's true.
actually what he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I
is
think you're right. I think, like,
it's
I think it's
good.
diamonds are made under pressure kind of thing. So I think it's twofold really. It's one is you're right. There are some people who are in this dreamlike state, where it does feel like, suffering and torture is upon you, and you find a way to rise above it all, and you become one of the most inspiring human beings. And I think the other part to it is, for those who are in those situations where they're just under the heaviest rock and can't pull themselves out, this is the whole reason why it's important for us to uplift ourselves as well, because it's important for us to recognize that some people need help getting the rocks off. And
Hmm.
if we uplift ourselves, then for those who cannot, become the rose amongst the thorn, for those of us who uplift ourselves, we might be able to give those people a helping hand and get them out from under the rock as well. And that's the beauty of uplifting yourself. And that's why it's
Yeah.
important for all of us to wake up from the stream.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this path is, they say it's a path of meditation and of service.
Mm,
So at the same time, it's not saying that you won't be a very valuable asset to humanity. Actually, like just like what you were saying, is that when you do uplift yourself, it's like they say with you're on the air, when you're in a flight, passenger flight, put on your own oxygen mask before helping others.
right.
if you don't have it within you to have things that you can share and help others, then you can't really be of service to them. You can't go help somebody that's drowning if you don't know how to swim. So in this way, with your meditation practice, you may say, okay, I'm going to work on my inner self. Obviously, like I have a lot of traumas, things that I need to work out. I have a lot of fears. I have a lot of flaws. I can use meditation in order to work those things out.
Mm,
And after a period of meditation, you might spring into action knowing exactly what it is that you're meant to be doing on
yeah.
this world, in this world, and you are going to have such a more potent effect than if you just run around trying to fix the world
Right.
all the time. Yeah.
Love that. That's why I think Gandhi, he made clearly he probably took this from his learnings from the Bhagavad Gita and Hinduism, but he said, be the change you want to see in the world. And that's the one probably that's most famous that people are usually used to hearing. But after this conversation, it's that much more clear to me how powerful that message really is.
Yeah, I was really loving the way that he was putting this into context, because it's
Yeah.
things that we've all heard and we know, but we want to fight it, or it's hard to wrap your mind around because we just see this suffering and it shuts down our expanded ways of thinking and to seeing the whole picture. He told another story that put into, and I don't think I'll go into the whole story, but he was basically, the idea, say if we back up and think about someone who is suffering and they're just kind of continually suffering, they're just continually getting hit with hardship after hardship. They say that when that's happening, and until your consciousness shifts, until you actually learn from the experience, it's just going to keep happening over and over. Say
Right.
someone, like, they say kind of this idea of like, if you just go and somebody who's homeless and suffering, if you just give them, here, I'm just going to give you a bunch of money, and this should solve your problems, right? Okay, I'm going to give you enough money for you to get a place to live and to take care of yourself for a while, and then you should be able to use that and to make more money with that, and you should be able to like be on your way. I'm just going to do
Mm,
that for you. That actually won't solve their problems. The consciousness that they have still is going to lead them right back into the same situations
right.
that they were in before. And until your consciousness shifts and changes and you develop a new way of thinking, and that's, I think, it's just what happens for all of us, and we learn and we grow at our own pace. We were all there as well in past lifetimes, and we're just on different points of like a
Yeah.
clock. We're not better or worse than anybody else. We're just at like different points on the path.
That makes
And
sense.
yeah, so yeah, we just have to, like, for us, if we're like interested in these kind of things, the key is okay, something difficult and challenging is happening, so I try to say, what can I learn from this? I want to learn the lessons. Okay, all right, I feel like, all right, I know why this is happening. I can really get a sense. I take it into my meditation. Tell me, like, why is this happening? What can
Right.
I learn from? Yeah, and then it's like, okay, my consciousness is shifted. I have a new perspective. Oh yeah, I could see it's because I did that. I treated somebody like that in the past, or I did something. Yeah, all right, I see. I had that coming. Or
Yeah. Yeah. But I think you're right. I think it leads you to more introspection, right? Self-reflection, really thinking about how you could be better. And you know, I got a little girl and she's at camp this week. And her first day, she said she went on a bike ride with her friends and at the camp, and the brakes didn't work and she drove right into a bush. And then uh she was doing something, I don't know, it was like tying knots and stuff. And she's really good at those kinds of things, but she didn't know what the task at hand was going to be. And so she tells all the kids that she tells the kids she's a really good teacher. And then she learns this new task. And then so she had to end up asking for help. And so the kids are like, thought you were a good teacher. So that hurt her feelings a little bit. And
Mhm.
anyways, she came home yesterday and last night. And after she took her bath, she comes and sits with me and she says, Daddy, I really, really just don't like this camp. It's not fun. It's just terrible. And so I asked her, why? And so she kind of talked about some of these things and about these things that initially it seems like, it seems very out of her control. When you just put it through that lens, like that situation is just terrible. So we had this really cool conversation about, what could she do to change how she perceives these kinds of experiences, going into camp today, because she is going to camp today. I'm not going to remove the challenge from her. And so, so I said a couple of things. I said, so tell me about, why did you feel like you want to let everyone know that you're a good teacher? And she says, because Daddy, I am. I'm a really good teacher. And I said, most good teachers don't have to tell people that they're good teachers. Usually other people come to that conclusion themselves. I said, so just do all the things that you can do that. And that means not just doing the work, but maybe helping someone else. And people will find, if you can actually help someone else, they'll probably say, wow, this person's a really good teacher, or at least they're really good at helping. And so it was one of those like, oh, okay. And then I said, and then, riding a bike and riding into the bush, sometimes things happen that are just out of your control. And it doesn't matter how great you are and how much you try. Sometimes you're just going to fall off the bike. And I said, but, do you think that it's a good idea to stay off the bike? Or do you think that maybe it's a good idea to talk about some of the reasons why you fell off and make sure that you minimize those risks tomorrow when you talk to your teacher or your counselor? And she says, yeah, Daddy, like maybe I shouldn't ride that bike. And I said, yeah, it's probably a good idea, because if a bike has brakes, you know how to use it, right? She's like, oh yeah, I ride my bike really well. And I said, okay, well, that. So, but just going back to
that's really cool. I like that. Yeah.
Just at that young age of just being the change that you want to see in the world around you. And, she went back to camp today knowing that she has to try a couple of things, maybe to make things a little bit different for her today. And I said, and then at the end of the day tomorrow, we'll talk about it. And it doesn't mean it's going to be a perfect day, because there's no such thing as perfect days, but at least you tried. And, and I say that because I feel like that same practice is important for your whole life,
And that's really cool that, like you can have those conversations with her. If you think about like her starting to have those little inner dialogues with herself, like now, and then imagine when she's 40, having done that all along. Because that'll happen to me now. Like I'll have said something, maybe say in that similar way, like, oh, I'm a really great teacher. And then you'll get challenged, and then people will be like, oh yeah, you suck, bro, whatever. You're just like, oh, that was just like an instant little lesson there. And if I can not have my feelings hurt and just be like, oh, everything is my guru, everything is teaching me. And if I can just say, like, without, and actually it's a really hard practice, but if always you can be like, well, I'm actually here to dissolve my ego. I want to dissolve that ego. And so when I hear somebody criticize me, if I can sort of join in with them and be like, you're right. I really need to work on that. And then the ego just gets like a little softer, and then you become more your true self.
Yeah. You make yourself, you become more likable. When you're comfortable in your own skin, you make other people comfortable in theirs. I heard Maya Angelou say that. I agree 100%. And I think usually having, being self-deprecating a little bit and not taking yourself too seriously and remaining a student to the game usually is the fastest way there. So give us a couple more lessons that you wrote down there, Chris. These are awesome.
Yeah. So in a way to like bring this into a tangible, like, okay, what do we do with all this? He says that, okay, the great masters that, like we were saying, they're not interested in changing the dream world. They're interested in waking us up from the dream. But if, they could come in and just like wake you up from that dream, and you go, oh, wow, that was just a dream. Wow. Okay, great. Now you're outside of that, and you realize there's so much more what you are actually. And what I learned through my psychedelic experiences, that what I truly am is what's known in India as the definition of God, Sat Chit Ananda, ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. Like this world is infinite. This universe is infinite, and the whole universe is our playground. We're not actually, the only reason we suffer is because we are identified as this one single body. Like, actually, we're the infinite universe. We're only dreaming that we're this body. So
Mm,
my soul took manifestation as this body to learn and to grow, so it could go through all these lifetimes and then eventually realize that I'm not these bodies. I'm actually the entire universe. And that's when we wake up from the dream, and now we have access to the whole game. Like right now, you just have access to this one little single one, and you're just
right.
trying to protect it, and you're trying to make sure people don't criticize it, and you're trying to change the world. You don't need to change the world. Actually, everything exists, and it's your whole playground. It's a nest of
Mm,
fun, Yogananda calls it. Life with God is a nest of fun. Without it, it's a night. Without God, it's a nightmare.
wow. That
And
is
so,
cool. That I feel like we could spend a whole podcast just on that,
mhm,
understanding how we exist in this space, how we exist as part of the infinite.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
we could spend our whole
Kind of
many
like the
lifetimes.
Matrix a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what they say, so he says what the great masters, what they do, rather, what they actually do is that they bring us not only the techniques and the teachings of yoga, which is yoga's just the path of waking up, but they bring their magnetism, they bring their example and their right attitude and their love. So actually, like when saying the same way that you had the image of Martin Luther King Jr. and you had his books and his teachings and his way of talking, you tune into that and you become more like that. If you take maybe he was an awakened master, we don't know. But if you take what you know is a truly awakened master, and you tune into that, and you're every day, every night, every moment of your life, you're like boom, 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 just
Mm,
becoming more and more like that, then that's actually how we become just like them.
yeah.
And and it's not like you become like Yogananda's guru. It's not like your personality becomes like them. It's not like you lose
Yep.
your own journey. And like Yogananda's teacher was like so much different than he was. He was a very hard disciplinarian, took nothing, but Yogananda is all love, and
Right.
he told jokes, and he was so much different. It's not like your personality has to
Yeah.
match and you become a cookie cutter, but we become like them in their expanded consciousness. And yeah, so that's really the whole thing, is that we become what we really are, is Satchitananda, that ever expanding, ever new, ever
Mm.
existing bliss consciousness. And we just enjoy everything all the time, forever.
I love that. Even the way you said before, right? You said even even your hardships, all of the challenges, everything. If you can find a way to master that and love all of that, and know that everything is there for you. These challenges, these tribulations, these experiences, the happiness, the pleasure, all of it is happening for you. You just go through it that with that much more courage. Like you said, you're in
Mhm,
that video game, and you're never like, oh, I have to beat this hard level. You're so excited at this challenge. So I love
mhm.
that. I love that, Chris. So where do you go from here? You have this phenomenal, incredible experience at the Ananda Village retreat, and you come back to a very different reality than it was out there on the
Yeah.
1,000 acres. So what is it like now, and where do you go from here?
Right. Yeah. It's always so abrupt when you come home from something like that. And, we were having a conversation the other day. I was like telling you a little bit. I was like, usually whenever I have like some of my biggest, most expansive spiritual experiences of my life, like I'll come back into like, uh, my wife and I, we like have very different interests. Like I grew up, it was like I was saying, I was interested in martial arts and wrestling and heavy metal and all kinds of, I was
Yeah.
just like a seeker of everything, just looking for adventure in all kinds of different things. She always has like something planned, like I'll come back from like a Bufo experience and then straight into being at the Madison Square Garden watching UFC fight or something, or in a stadium watching AEW wrestling,
Right.
or in this case, I joined her marketing team on a trip where they hadn't seen each other in like 3 years, all of the team. So we had got a house for everybody out in South Florida, on the water there, and it was like I was at a casino, I was riding in an airboat, I was in a helicopter over Miami, and just a
Little change of
completely,
pace.
yeah, it's a completely different environment. And then it's like, okay, but can I put these things into practice in these places? And I like it's I would prefer just to stay in the simpler way of attunement with all these things, but I feel like it's making me the person, it's chiseling me into someone who can jump from one to the other, who can be in something like that, and then also be well, charming and conversational in an environment that's kind of freaking me out. Like I'm noticing all of this, in the casino. I'm feeling all of the energy and the desperation and
Yeah.
the just wanting to like find pleasure in getting wasted, and the attachment to money and all that kind of. I'm feeling all of that energy around me, but
Yeah.
I'm not like condemn, so at the same time, the practice helps me not to judge anybody, not to condemn anybody, not trying to like, man, I got to get out of here, this is terrible, or oh, it's just to be able to be like, wow, like it's all God, it's all Om. It's this whole thing. There's nothing that's separate from God, and
Yeah.
everybody is just at the place that they're at. And I used to go to casinos, and I used to do these things. I used to, I just wanted to go out and get wasted and drink
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So it's like no judgment. Everybody's where they're at. So it's helping me to be able to do both, to be in an environment like that. So I think it's probably cool. Like, I don't know how many other, say, like people like say yogis are hanging out at the casino at that time, that are just looking around and seeing everybody as God. I think it might have helped some people that were standing around to feel that vibration a
That's
little
kind
bit.
of cool. So how do you still feel the temptation at all, Chris? Like just the human, like, my goodness, that guy just won 50K at a slot machine. I know you can be happy for them, but do you ever feel the temptation at all for that, or for whatever it is, any type of I don't know, like alcohol, anything?
Yeah, of course it's still there, because I'm early on the path,
Okay.
so I still feel these things come through, and I sort of notice them, and just to make sure, just like, because I was standing around with people, and they're playing slots. I was like, let me put in $20 and I'll just like push this thing. It was so funny because a great way, because I used to be really lucky. Like I could go to one and I could put in $20 at a slot machine. I would immediately get 100 back, and I would just
Wow.
leave or whatever. So I was like, oh yeah, I used to be really lucky. I wonder if so I just put it in for fun, and it was like, lose, 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 lose. I was like, oh, good, that's perfect. That's
Right.
perfect.
It's a good
Like that's
reminder.
yeah, it's just like, that's not for you anymore. You just don't even go there. It doesn't make any sense for you.
So,
Uh,
just to make you feel better, like I have a, if when I put my heart and soul and effort into anything that I do, I am, um, I'm always well taken care of. Anytime I try to get the quick, like my winning percent, like just to go there and like
mhm.
luck, I'm a very lucky person. I am very blessed. I feel very blessed for the things that I have in my life. Just being here with you right now, on a Tuesday morning, and not having the pressures of anything else in this life other than just to absorb this moment, is a incredible blessing. So I just want to be clear on that point. But when it comes to winning money in a casino or in a raffle, that is
Mhm.
my entire life. God has told me, if you put your money down in a gambling fashion, it will be gone.
Yep.
That's not how you're supposed to make it. You
Yep.
work for it. I can give you as much as you need, but if you're trying to gamble for it,
Mhm.
I'm going to take it. And
Yeah.
that's been the story of my life.
100%. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the way it works, is like just knowing if you're doing what you're meant to be doing, and your heart is in it, and you're doing it for the right reason, as service, and trying to uplift the world with what you're doing, then the things that are impossible for others become possible for you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the idea. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I write children's books and I visit schools and I work with kids and educators, because I feel like that's what my calling is. I'm meant to uplift, and I can take care of all of the things that I need to take care of in my personal life as long as I'm uplifting other people. That's the only thing that I've learned throughout my life. That I know
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
cool.
That I know for
Yeah,
sure.
man, I love that. Yeah, I love watching the videos with you with the kids, and
Yeah,
yeah, so good. It's just like, wow, that feels good, you know?
it is. It feeds my soul.
Hmm.
Well, Chris, I gotta tell you, I am very jealous that you have had that experience. But I'm motivated to maybe start the path myself and to get there one day as well. The autobiography of a yogi is going to be something that's going to be on my bookshelf and maybe my nighttime reading now.
I think you'll dig it.
Feels
Yeah,
I'm
I
being
think you'll
called.
dig it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how I'm just like I kind of see myself as a bridge. Like I just want to bridge the gap between these things and just plant these seeds. So yeah, when it seems fun and interesting, then yeah, then dive in. You're like, whoa, you get the same sort of feeling that I felt when I found them.
Well, we have an AMA this coming Friday, which I'm very excited about. And what I just realized is this podcast will be released after our AMA. So I guess in retro, I hope that the AMA went well on Friday. Or sorry, it's going to be Thursday night at 9:30, not Friday. Thursday night at 9:30, and we get to share all these incredible things with the audience that tunes in with us on Twitter. So Thursday night, 9:30. What's the date? Is that Tuesday? It's supposed to be 14th. So it's gonna be
Yeah,
July
that's the
14th
14th.
at 9:30. We get to hear Chris Parks explain to us all of the incredible lessons and experience that you got from the Ananda Village retreat. And hopefully, Chris, you'll jump into Discord as well. I know there's a lot of new members. I think we're up to about 333 members now. We've
Cool.
gained quite a few over the last few days. So if you can just pop in there and say hello to everybody, that'd be amazing as well.
Yeah, this is so great because it's like it's not just us, it's all of us together, like doing these things, and it's so nice to have this community that's building, and we'll all just be able to keep tuning into each other together and keep
Yeah.
pushing each other forward and sharing what we're working on and sharing our struggles and our achievements. And so yeah, we're really happy that people are joining in and looking forward to having more and more ways that we get to interact and connect.
Yeah. Well, beautiful. So before we sign off, Chris, do you mind maybe if we could just take us through a quick maybe a meditation or a nice way to relax?
Yeah, this is something that we do before we start the podcast, or I do before starting a meditation. This is a Nanda meditation, and I believe it was also Yogananda taught. It's just like a really quick way to um, relax all of the tension in the body and to release it. So if you're about to say jump on a phone call with somebody, or if you're in your car and you just want to relax the muscles in your body and quickly discharge that tension, it's very simple. It's a double inhalation, which sounds like this. And then you tense all of the muscles in your body, and we can do it together after I give you the example. So you take a double inhalation, and then you tense all of the muscles in your body, and you go from a low, medium, high, and then you can vibrate. You feel your whole body vibrating with energy, and you're actually drawing in energy through the medulla oblongata. This is actually where, when you're conceived, that it starts here, and then the body is formed from the medulla. This is where life force energy enters in, and this is where life force energy is entering into your body. It's making your heart beat, and all of your blood's pumping through your body. So when you're doing that, you're tensing. Life force energy is entering into your medulla and filling your body with energy, and then you double exhale. Relax, and then you release all of the tension in your body. So we're going to do it together 3
Okay.
times. Very simple. Okay, so taking a deep breath and then all the way out. So now double inhale. Tense, low, medium, high, vibrate with energy. Exhale, relax. Feel. Again, inhale, intense. Low, medium, high, vibrate with energy. Exhale, relax. Feel. Last round, inhale. Low, medium, high, vibrate with energy. Exhale. Relax and feel. And just take that into the rest of your day, your night, and integrate that calm vibration, that calm feeling.
Beautiful. Chris, it is always a pleasure and a blessing to chat
Yeah.
with you. And
Yeah, man. It's like therapy for us every week.
it is, yeah, another great conversation. You shared so many great stories and lessons, and I'm grateful.
Likewise, brother. I always love hearing your perspectives on it, and it's really fun chatting with you, man. So it's a blast
Always.
doing these.
All right, brother. Well, we'll be in touch, obviously every day, but on Thursday night, we'll see you then.
All right, see you guys.